We have the right to self-government, to self-determination of land. And the people that are here are going to go back and continue the struggle. This is not an end, it's only a beginning.
Thank you for joining us on our podcast episode, The True Canadians, from the book by the same title. And I'm honored to be here today with Angie Crerar, respected Métis elder and survivor. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you.
So we were going to talk today about residential schools, the history and leading up to Pope's visit and the visit over to the Vatican, which is discussed in the book, and reconciliation and some pretty heavy issues.
Thank you. Thank you, David. For many, many years, I've been all over Canada since about 20 years, talking to elders, and I learned so much from them. And not only, they're so devoted and they're so kind, but they also they hide their pain. Over the years, I have worked so many of them and found out how many of us, and myself included, is that we don't tell everything. Where the pain is too much. And so we help each other. We talk to each other sometimes. And then when the government comes up and forever, ever changing our name. And the most important thing I want to talk about is as children, when we were physically taken by RCMP from our home and taken into a different place. For myself and my two sisters were 3 and 5, and I was just 9. Can you imagine what it was like to come into a different world? My little baby sister was crying because the nuns scared her, the way they were dressed. And the other one they're just sobbing, you want to come home, in our own language. Let's go home, let's go home. Do you know how I felt that day? I was only 9 years old, but I knew we should not have been there. Our parents loved us so much. What happened? Then we found out my mom had TB and she was very sick.
Tuberculosis?
Yeah. And so I was in school. And all of a sudden, our RCMP came in, called me out, and said, you got to come with me. What in the world, even today when I think about it, how did I feel when I see that RCMP take me out of school and taking me away? I've never been so scared in my life. And over the years, I learned how much I suffered, how much of the pain I went through, the guilt, because I couldn't look after my sisters. All these things, everything we went through those 10 years, it has to be something. Something would have come for something. I started from my residential school friends. They said, Angie, help us. Talk to us. This is, tell me. So they start telling me their stories. And they asked me to speak for them. And so I started that about 20 years. I didn't do anything special. I just asked my friends and my residential school friends, and also the elders, said, yes, could you do that for me? And I know, and you have your own pain to share, and that'll help you. I can never imagine how my little sister suffered and how I suffered, because I could not do anything. There was nobody there. Nobody looked for us. Nobody phoned. Nobody got a letter. It's like we were totally forgotten. And over the years, it started. We were so much in love. We had such a good family. And as what we were learning from those nuns were all negative. This is what they learned. This is what the government agreed to take us to residential school for a better life. Oh my good God. That's the most terrible thing that ever happened in Canada for these children. Who has that right? Who has that right to hurt these children? They were innocent when they got in. We were all innocent. You know, everything changed. Everything changed for the worst. We were alone. No answer. Nobody to help us. Nobody to hear our voice. And even ask us a question. All we got was punished. Punished. And to think, your parents are no good. And I remember that first time, I think I just was there for a month or two, and they said that to someone, saying, your parents are no good, and you better forget about them. And so, innocent me, I said, my parents are very nice. My parents always love us. That's the first wicked I ever had in my life. I've had many after. But you know, when they had the gall to run down our parents, something that we held, something that was ours, our own. And they definitely, over the years, when nobody was answering us, we started to believe. We said, and we talked to each other. We started to help each other then. And just to think, we can't. We have to make our own minds. They're telling us we're no good. They're telling us we'll never learn. We'll always be savages. And everybody, those white people, you have to be like them. You got to everything you learn from your mom and dad because that's wrong. They're in sin. How many times did I hear that? And when after the years you start learning these things over and over again from them, how do you start to believe? How did you start to think? And your whole feelings, your feelings get cold. I still feel it right now just talking about it. To be able to, are we even human? Do we belong to someone? Is there anybody that cares for us? And then we started helping ourselves. And that was always the best thing. We started looking after the little ones and not all the bigger girls. But one day I was out in the laundry. I think I was 14 doing laundry. Then I got home from work about 5 o'clock, and the girls come running to me and saying, Doris and Rita are underneath their bed. They're being punished. So I went under. They're underneath their bed. And I said, Doris, come out of here. And Doris got her hair all over the place, her face. And then my baby sister, I look her up, her hands were all bleeding. Just like something broke in me. Something just went washing my two sisters. I was supposed to be looking after them. And then the nun came back up, and then she said, Doris, you need to go back up. What are you doing in here? And you too, Doris. You get over here, Rita. One time I was in trouble, I knew who was. I said, Lynn records it. Yes, sit to sweat. I always knew I was in trouble. But the nun come over and took a strap at me. I don't know, just everything even today, I can't think about it. I just lost everything. And then they found out I took a strap away from the nun and I was fighting her, and then all of a sudden nuns are coming. There was 5 nuns to take me down, and the girls were protecting my 2 little sisters. And for 2 days, I stayed in a cloakhouse with no food and no water for 2 days. And then 2 days later, the priests come in, and that one, I'll never forget what I went through that day. But something came good out of it. Because the big girls, all the other girls, and then they started. Now, rebellion. That's the first we ever had. So when the priest, and then he got the brothers to come in, and here's one brother, he had a big whip like for an animal, and they were all threatening us. But all of a sudden we start pulling together. All the bigger girls stayed behind. They covered all the other ones. Yeah, that day we all had one night and no meals for 2 days. We're gonna pray on our knees for 2 days, and that's what happened. But the whipping and everything kept on going. Only when the big girls were gone, or when they were busy. But why? When I look back and thinking about this night, why? What did we do wrong? What did we do wrong? We were so innocent. And how the people that we supposed to be looking after us, the people that committed to look a happier life for us, how many hypocrites, how much could we not trust anybody? But we learned to lie. We learned to lie to save ourselves. And we learned also to be angry. We learned to fight. And we also would go to church where we wouldn't pray. Because where is God looking after us? Nobody. And then the town, the city, the town, when we used to go from the church to the church on Sunday to go to Mass, people were standing around looking at us, saying broken legs, bruises, and there was a lot of damage there. But nobody put their heads down, but never said a word. Later on, when I got older, one day I went back to Fortress, and I said to those people, where were you? You saw us. We're standing there, and you were watching us. And you could see some of those kids were crying. Some were searching for love. Some were searching for help. But you just ignored us like we were nothing. And one elder said, the priest is God. He is the boss of everybody. RCMP do everything they tell them. So if we did anything or said anything to you, we would suffer and they would put us to jail. When you think of all those girls, oh, how much they had to offer, how much they could have done something. They had the desire to know things, to help. They had a desire to do something important for themselves and for the others. Totally ignored. So, what kind did we get? What kind of help did we get? No. We changed. Our whole life was thrown away. Our whole life was taken. The love, the kindness, and everything that we were taught. That was wrong. Remember, that was a sin? Just to remember those words, you never forget. One word. You see a man standing up or a woman standing, by the way their body movement is, bang, you remember, this used to be this one. And then when you see those Catholics denying what actually happened to them, the Anglicans too. Why? I always wonder, and why, Lord, why? What did we do? How much? What does the government figure we're going to be? What kind of life we're going to have? They didn't care. They didn't care. They still don't. But we know we did it ourselves. Over the last years, so many of us are gathering, working to helping each other, and doing something positive for ourselves. And to ignore everything they taught us. It took us about 50 years. Everything they taught us, they just don't teach it and just forget it right away. But just to remember that we did it. We worked together, we helped each other, and we bring back everything we lost. It took me 45 years to forget everything, to get back everything I lost. My family, my community. The only thing I lost is my language. And then you gotta start thinking. You can't live in the past. It's too painful. It's too painful. So we have to forget. You got to put it behind you and say, this is what I learned. This is what they taught us. But in my heart and my soul, do you feel right? No, you don't. So find out, what's wrong with you? What are you looking for? What kind of life do you want? What would your parents want? And the hardest thing in the world was to forgive. But for our own souls and our own hearts, and to have peace, to feel free. You cannot and will not live in peace unless your heart and your souls and your everything else is at peace. It's been many, many, many years, and many, many people from Grand Prairie, and the luckiest thing I ever did in my life has come here. For all the people, from City Hall to Native Counseling, to Friendship Center, the Meaty Local, and the city, and the schools. These things don't come easy. The first time I come here, I said, what kind of Indian are you? And then, at that time, I was just 33, 8 kids, and I thought, I guess it's time. And it took, still today, we're still working. There's a lot of very strong people here. People are dedicated. People to take pride of who they are. And being Métis is another story. So it never amounts to anything. Nobody wants you. White people don't want you. The Indians don't want you because you're nothing. You never will be anything. In a way, it made us stronger. We're going to prove them wrong. We are strong people. Our parents, our great-grandparents, they all suffered, but they worked in silence. And someday, my dad used to say someday, there will be a name. But right now don't say anything. But when it's time, when they started working together and identifying themselves, and then you do your share. Don't sit back and let everybody else do your job. Your parents, your grandparents have done so much over the years, and you do your share. And it gave me really pride. It gave me a lot of pride when my dad talked to us, and we had a beginning. We had something to cling to, something to pray for, something to work on. And we're still working on it today. And to belong to someone, it meant so much. And I'm sure that all the survivors all across Canada know how important it was to have a name.
That is an amazing story, Angie, and a good place to take a break. We'll be right back.
Hello, this is Audrey Petra. It was approximately 20 years ago when the Métis Nation of Alberta was approached by Elder Angie Crerar and other residential school survivors who felt they were ready to tell their stories. They indicated to us that it was important that they document what happened to them in residential schools. Most of them wanted to be recognized with their names attached to their stories. And out of that, we published Métis Memories of Residential School in 2004. And one of our Métis citizens, Jude Daniels, was the one who spent her time talking and recording those residential school stories. Out of that Métis Memories residential school book, quite a few years later, Rupert's Land Institute had a mural done with 24 story cards depicting each of those stories so they could use it as part of an educational program. It was about that time that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission had put out their report, and there was more survivors that came forward. We hired a person to support, take photographs, document those stories because it was so important to them. We set up a steering committee of survivors. Today, we have more and more work being done, definitely by Angie Crerar and some of those other elders. And when there was the decision to take a delegation to the Vatican, Angie was selected by the National Committee as the elder from Alberta who would go. And she had us call a gathering of as many residential school survivors as we could to talk to her about what they wanted her to bring to the Vatican. She clearly said, "It's not only my story, it's all of us, and the Pope needs to hear our stories." And that in itself was an amazing event, to have everyone contribute to what Angie was taking forward when she got to visit the Pope at the Vatican. There is still a lot more work to do, but survivors have made it very clear that without truth, there will be no reconciliation.
Angie, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission had calls to action, and one of them, which I never thought I would see, was that the Pope would come to Canada and apologize. It's like, oh my gosh, the Catholic Church? Oh no, not them. But before that happened, there was a delegation to Rome, to the Vatican, and we have photos of it in the book. You went, you met Pope Francis, and then he came here a year later. What was that like? I mean, that must have been an amazing experience, and I wouldn't suggest that that's a huge step towards what we're referring to as reconciliation, but it did have an impact for you, and it would be very useful for you to share that.
I'd be more than pleased. I'm so sorry. I just wouldn't want to say his name. I get so emotional because it's been so many years and years, centuries, for so many of our people needed to see a pope. When I got a call in December from my president saying, just like this, Angie, you want to go to the Rome to see the Pope? I was speechless. I fainted. I hung up her phone. I hung up the phone on her. And then I started to shake. And, oh my goodness, I better get that. I better answer. So it took me about 5-10 minutes. I was just vibrating. So I phoned back my president and said, I'm so sorry. And she said, what did you say to me? And then she said, I want to know if you want to go to be one of our veterans, of our delegates, to go see the Pope. Oh my God, sister, I'm telling you, I feel so humble, and I feel so happy, and I feel so many things that are so strong for my family, my uncles, my grandfather, my parents, and everybody who really, really believed, and they were very, very strong Catholics. And who am I, unworthy? I felt so unworthy. And then I started to think, so with my president, do you think my parents did that? That my parents were praying all these years that one of our family, would be able to go to Rome. So I said, definitely I want to go, and you come with me. I said to my president.
That's President Poitras?
Audra.
Of the Métis Nation of Alberta, right?
Okay. And so I called my national president, and I was just screaming. And, oh my God, she said, I think she wanted to come. And so I said, I definitely will come. Then 2 weeks later, I started to get sick. And so, I told my doctor, my president, Audrey, I don't feel good. I said, I don't think, but she said, no, don't say anything yet. Don't say anything yet, because we don't know when. 2 days later, I get a call that our Pope had canceled. So, right away, the national president phoned and said, don't say anything yet. Because we don't know when it's going to happen. March, got a call. Awesome. I feel great. And I just pray and thank you. I am going to see the Pope. A little girl from Russia River, only speaking 2 languages, and half-breed. I'm going to go to see the Pope. I was so honored. So, here come the day. A day I'll never forget. A day I will treasure. A day that I will forever be grateful. And I'll always remember all these people that helped me. There was a reason while I was here. There was a reason why I got better. Now what am I supposed to do now? And then I found out, and then they asked me to say the story of our residential school. Do you know how hard it was? How hard to say that to our Pope? And here came the day, and he come to meet us. And he come and held a hand, and he held two hands on mine, and I was just praying. And afterwards we went, and then I had to sit down. And I was going to hurt the Pope. I felt I can't do that. And I had promised so many people. And so I prayed. I prayed, if everything possible. I never want to hear the Pope. But my people need that story. They called me for a reason, and I have to do that. So I started. I went up with my president, we went forward, and I started my speech. Halfway through, I felt like someone was looking at me. So then I opened my eyes, and I looked, here was square face with my beloved Pope. And his face, you could see so much pain on his face. You could see the tears, and you could see the pain, and you could see how much that what we heard should never, ever have happened. His strength. But, we really felt, every one of us talked later, when we're looking at him, said, we felt his pain. We felt his love for us, too. But most important was that he cared. We really believed him. Every word he said and engraved in our hearts. To think that our Pope, the biggest man in the world, heard our story, and he definitely with everything in his power to tell us the apology. It should never, ever have happened. To have our Pope say, I'm sorry, I apologize for everything you went through. We have to work together. And we also admitted to our president, said, our national president got that word when he asked our Pope to come for an apology and also to come to Canada. And our Pope didn't even hesitate, just with us. I can't explain, okay? It's just so much love, okay? I got to say that, because I can't bring a better word. And he cared for us, and of all these years that we suffered, that day we forgot all that, because he believed the children, and we apologized for what they were, why they went through, and we all knew that he would do everything in his power that all child were taken well, safe, and happy. Just to remember, the most important person in the world loved us, cared for us. If I lived to be 100, I was always be grateful for all the life I went through, and just to know that I was working towards it, that someday I would meet the Pope. And everything that I went through, it was nothing but a whisper. Just to believe. And we could tell when he apologized, his whole being, his whole body, and it was just vibrating because he meant it from his heart. He was honest and so open. Had so many years. How many years did we want him? We want him ourselves. And we got the answer that we needed for many, many years. To have forever. Remember that our life will change for the better, because when a Pope opens his heart and lets everybody know how much he loves his children.
That was an amazing tale of your trip over there. And then he came here. And how did that experience touch you?
For many, many years, residential school, we have thought about it. I remember one time, one of the girls said, "Why are they so mean to us? How can we talk to someone?" And someone said, "Oh, let's talk to the Pope." Those years, that helped us, because we knew he was kind, but not to ever think we'd be that lucky to meet a Pope. To have how important it is, not always to all Canada, but especially to the survivors. How many years that they believed their faith in their Pope. And so, when we had the chance to go talk to him ourselves, we were so proud, and we knew in our hearts of hearts that our Pope would come to see us. The way he received, the way we talked to him, and the stories, and all we felt about him, he felt as we did. We were united. And then to think, not only were we only talking about ourselves, we were talking about Canada, but especially the survivors, because they needed comfort, they needed belief, they needed faith. And so when the Pope had made up his mind to come here, we definitely phoned everyone we could, let them know the Pope was coming. And our Canadians all across Canada made 2 places to meet and see our Pope, to get his blessings, and to always remember, to think his health is not that well, but he came. It was very important to him is to come here to see the survivors and to let them remember that he knows he'll always care for us and love for us, and will always remember the children are to be loved, protected, and safe.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you so much. We've been speaking about residential schools and reconciliation, words that just do not do nearly enough. Thank you very much to you for joining us. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.